time to talk about stress, cortisol, and your adrenals. Everybody's favorite topic, right? I'm Dr. Beth Westie, women's health and hormone expert. I'm the author of the books, The Female Menopause Solution, The Female Fat Solution. These are found on Amazon. Also the host of the podcast, The Female Health Solution. And you can subscribe to that as well as subscribe to my YouTube channel and find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the things. So, and talking about this and why this is such an important thing to dive into, this is one of the things that we measure on your Dutch test. All right, a Dutch, this stands for Dried Urine Test for Comprehensive Hormones. What we are looking at is how your system responds to things and looking at what your levels are. So this is an example of a test right here, and I've drawn it bigger here so you can kind of get the gist of it. This is supposed to be your adrenal gland. I drew that and I was like, it kind of looks like a kidney bean or something. It's not. This is supposed to be your adrenal gland. Your adrenal gland is one of the things that they measure by looking at your metabolized cortisol. This is the total amount of cortisol that is made by your adrenals, right? This is one of the only ways to measure it is actually through urine. Oftentimes when you're going to get a cortisol test and you just do saliva, saliva is great, but if you're just doing it once, like throughout the day, like, oh, I had my appointment in the afternoon and I got a cortisol test. I mean, it's not bad. You're just looking at a tiny snippet of information here. Looking at that one cortisol marker throughout the day, say you got it done in the afternoon and you're like, yeah, it was fine, right? My level was fine. Was it though? Because this would be, waking, this level here is morning, this would be the afternoon, and this is evening here. All right, those are the measurements that Dutch actually uses. And they use either saliva or cortisol. Now, if you're not actually getting the full gamut here, you're not actually getting a full picture of what your cortisol is doing throughout the day. So this is different though than your total adrenal function. So this is the really cool thing when people talk about adrenal fatigue, and I know that there are some people who are like, that's not a thing. Okay, fine. They just put a different name on it and called it HPA axis dysfunction or adrenal insufficiency. Potato people. We're talking about the same thing here, all right? It is essentially that your adrenals are not producing the right amount of cortisol. It can be too much or it can be too little, right? It's basically meaning that your system is not responding to stress in the right way. Now, are there things that we talk about, as we go over your Dutch test with you, making recommendations supplement-wise? Yes. Are there other nutrient recommendations that are essential? Yes. Getting enough protein is vital to making sure that your system can function better, right? Also making some lifestyle changes, making sure you're getting enough rest, making sure you're getting quality rest, making sure you're not stressing yourself out too much, because if you're in this constant fight or flight reaction, it's going to be really hard for your system to respond properly, right? If you're constantly stressed out, you can't out-supplement that, right? You have to make sure you're doing things on a daily basis and taking care of your system. Now, the free cortisol, this is actually a tiny percentage of the metabolized cortisol. Free cortisol, but this is the bioavailable stuff that your systems, your tissues actually use. This is the gas in the tank. I describe this as being like the engine in your car. So you need to have both for the car to go, for you to do the things. But your free cortisol is your body's response throughout the day. So this is, again, something you can measure through urine or through saliva. Metabolized cortisol only through the urine. Now we measure this amount, we want it to be, again, just right, just in the middle. But taking a 24-hour free cortisol is super helpful because it allows you to see how your body's responding. Other cortisol patterns that I've seen that are not good, in fact, I just looked over somebody's updated Dutch report, meaning we did a Dutch about 6 months ago and did another one to check on her progress. Her levels, I'm not kidding, I'm gonna draw what her pattern was before. Her waking level was way up here, then it literally came down here and then kind of evened out and plummeted. You know what this is? You know what this means that your body's doing? It's waking up in a huge stress reaction. That's waking up and almost feeling like you're having an anxiety attack. Like you're ready to fight a bear in the morning, like, like high alert. And then a couple hours later, you don't have that nice cortisol awakening response. It just plummets and you have this exhaustion. Meaning a couple hours after you wake up, you feel like you need to go back to bed. Or you could fall asleep again. Most people just white knuckle it through this point. Most people just grit and bear it and make it through the day, but you're not having a quality of life that you could because your system is so exhausted. And then you might feel better in the afternoon and then crash again in the evening. This is just one example of so many different patterns that could be occurring for you. But oftentimes what I find is that people will blame themselves the most about their motivation, lack of willpower, all these other things, saying, gosh, if I just could get going. Or, you know, if I go to bed earlier or something, maybe you can go to bed as early as you want, but if your body naturally wakes up in this fight or flight reaction, we have to target that. We have to teach your nervous system to calm down right when it wakes up. And there's a lot of different reasons that the body does this, because that's the next place the brain goes, right? Where you're like, okay, my patterns are definitely off. Why is it doing this? Why is my body reacting this way? That also is almost a never-ending, answer. It can be from a ton of things. It can be from stressors. It can be from toxins you're exposed to. It can be from, the top stressors, the categories that we talk about a lot of times, right, are toxins, thoughts, and traumas, right? Maybe it's you're doing too many workouts or not giving your body enough rest time, right? There's so many different reasons why. That's what we get to the bottom of when we understand more about what your system is doing, and then can also target specifically the things that are going to help this improve. Because without knowing what your body's doing, a lot of times it's super easy just to say, well, gosh, I get up in the morning and then I want to go to the gym, but I really can't, I don't ever make it there. And if I do make it there, I'm so exhausted that I can't even finish a workout. I bail. I don't finish my lifting. I feel like I can't lift as heavy as I normally would. All those things. And you think that it's your fault. That's not your fault, right? You literally don't have the gas in the tank to do it. So make sure when we're looking at these levels that you understand how it applies to you, your life. And then there's very specific things. Again, sometimes it's supplement recommendations, nutrient recommendations, lifestyle recommendations to help change your circadian rhythms, to help with your stress response, to make sure your body can actually make these improvements and keep them. Because once this gets thrown off, this is like a roller coaster, right? And once you get stuck on this ride, you can't get off. You have to really work with a lot of different things. Sometimes I recommend light therapy, right? This is why people talk about getting sunlight outside in the morning and all these other things. But understanding what your body is doing is the first key thing to do. So that's what I got for you guys today. Please let me know if you have any questions, of course, and go below this video. Click that link if you're like, yes, I need to know what my body's doing. I need a Dutch test. Absolutely click that link. But again, what we do, because that's the next question I get, well, what do I do about it? It depends on what your levels are doing. For some people, they're literally flatlined across the whole day. The recommendations for that is very different than if your pattern is all over the place. That's the thing too, is that the same thing is not going to work for everybody. The same thing is not going to provide everybody with an improvement. Thinking that there's a pill for every ill or there's just one path to follow really is sort of a Western medicine mindset on things. And when we talk about the Eastern medicine mindset, Chinese medicine and what we do with acupuncture and everything else, it's really very different to look at how the body naturally functions and align with that. Very different way of going about it, but I promise it yields a much better result. So let me know if you have any questions. Of course, always reach out or don't hesitate to comment because I do look at the comments. Otherwise, I will see you later.